Good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. I'm Mayor Cal Sheehy, joined by City Manager Jessica Knudsen.
Good morning.
Today is Friday, April 5th, and for the first time we're in our new council chamber, so welcome so much to this new facility. Please make yourself at home. There's coffee and donuts in the back. Please feel free to grab some. If you do need to use the restroom, just go out the double doors to the back of the room. And to my left, it would be your left too if you're heading that way. And you'll go down the hallway, and the restrooms are located there. But again, welcome. We're so glad to have you here and to be able to show off this such an amazing piece of infrastructure that was so needed in our community. Not so much the council chambers, but the courthouse operations that are happening below us. So again, welcome to you, and thank you for joining us. So we'll go ahead and get started just like we do every month. We'll talk about hot topics that are happening in Lake Havasu City. And we'll then address any questions that you have on any of the things that we mentioned or anything else that might be on your mind regarding Lake Havasu City. So Lake Havasu City has been really busy with a lot of infrastructure projects that you've been experiencing and seeing throughout our community. So we thought we'd just highlight some of those items. First, Highway 95, which is one of the most critical roadways and roadway networks that we have in our community, is nearing completion. So all of the repaving has been done. Now we're working on the fog sealing. This project, of course, could not have been done without the legislative leadership of Representative Biasucci, Senator Borelli, and Representative Gillette to actually work to get the funding together into the budget for the governor to sign and get those monies appropriated to get that roadway done. They redid the roadway all the way from Sarah Park to I-40, but they didn't stop there either. Also, our friends up in the Fort Mojave and Bullhead City area got the same thing for their Highway 95 as well. So we're really excited about Highway 95. Jess, you were talking to me yesterday about some of the bridge areas that will be done in the coming weeks, if you want to share that information.
Sure. So yeah, we just learned in terms of a date as we near completion for the Highway 95 reconstruction project. We call it the Bouncy Bridge that's out there in the vicinity of the sheriff's station. And then there's another similar one that's right across the street, right across the way from Calvary. So those, as you go over those bridge decks, you kind of feel kind of a wobble. April 15th, they're going to start the construction, take down an inch or two of the deck surface and replace it with something that's much more suitable for highway traffic. We're told that they're going to probably do a lot of that in the evening hours again, which has worked out so great with the rest of the project. So, but there will be an inconvenience for the week of the 15th coming up. But I'm so happy to see that completed, that addressed, and thanks to ADOT they essentially changed the scope in the middle of the project as we started talking about the need not just for the Highway 95, but for some of the other areas, including these two decks. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we've been talking about Highway 95 in this forum for over 2 years as we went through this whole process. And at the beginning, I would joke about, please be patient with us. But ADOT and their contractors have done such a great job.
And construction.
It's really been minimal on this project for all of us, which is fantastic. We're hopeful, although you're supposed to cover your load, and if you have a load and you're driving on the highway, please make sure you cover it. But hopefully with these transitions on the bridges, it won't create the environment where people that have loads in the back of their trucks that are going on them, they're bouncing and the things are bouncing out. If you look at the highway area where there might be debris or buildup of trash, you'll see that it's highly concentrated in these areas where these bridges are bouncy. But again, loads should be covered. We have worked with Republic Services who manages our landfill. There are requirements to have covered loads, so please just be sure that you cover your load going forward. But again, very excited about Highway 95 and all of the great work that's been going on out there. We also have the Island Walking Trail is coming to a completion, another great project that we've been able to do. This is the 3.5 mile circular radius of the island. That is a multi-use pathway. That project was desperately needed, but we had a couple of hiccups that we had to overcome, which we did with some of the right-of-way issues with the Arizona State Land Department, which allowed us and freed up the opportunity for us actually to get this work done. I was going to drive out there yesterday, but I didn't get a chance. I got held up in meetings. But I'm told that it's nearing completion. I know that the east side is already done. I've used that and recreated on that myself. And it was just the west side that they were wrapping up. I'm not sure just if you know if it's done or it's coming in the next week or so.
Essentially, we're at 98% completion. So you'll see some final touches that are be done on the project. Including some areas on that east side, closer to Site 6 area. making sure that we're going to create some berms and put some things into place, trying to keep vehicles off the island walking path. We want to make sure that it's preserved in a way that's going to be long lasting. And so a few final touches, but essentially we're there. We are talking about, so you have the 3.5 mile island walking path. There's the cut through or the cheat route that's there. That wasn't part of this project. It is very difficult for us to get any type of, or the contractor to get any type of equipment within that area. There's a lot of curves and nudges and trees and all the rest that's there. But we are looking at doing something at a later date for that area. But the outer loop is we're right there and putting some final touches on it to make sure that it's long lasting for the public.
Yeah, so that's the Grand Island Park walkway that Jess is talking about. If you start and you see now the great finished walkway and you take that left, you're like, oh, it's pretty pitted right there. But we will have a solution for that coming forward so that the entire recreation area out there is doing good. Also out on the island is Site 6. Site 6 work is being done. Site 6 is our only free boat launch ramp facility. It also has a fishing pier and also has amazing from that area, and houses the most historical building in Lake Havasu. The very first building in Lake Havasu is at 6, but we've been doing some really great work using some grant funds to make that launch ramp much more usable and easier for folks to be able to use. And that project is going along very well. All of the in-water work is done, so that's actually the ramp itself. We're taking the pitch of the ramp and making it not as steep, which will make it easier for people to pull in and out and get their boats in and out. And then we also extended it so that you don't lose your trailer tires when you're in there trying to launch your boat. So pretty exciting work. Just I don't know if you want to give an update on where we're at with when we can expect that to be open.
Yeah, the goal is to be open in advance of Desert Storm. So that's the goal as we move forward. The ramp area itself has been completed. Now we're doing some work on some asphalt work on the loop, right? As you drop the boat off and then take the boat out of the water. That loop area will be worked on this next week. So we'll be in a good spot for that as we move. And then our team, Guy Reynolds is our park superintendent. And our parks maintenance team will be also out there painting the railings and cleaning up the area with some fresh paint and just some elbow grease to enhance that area as much as possible. So we're really excited. I think we're going to plan some type of like a dedication or a ribbon cutting on that area to introduce that when it comes. But the goal has always been to get that open in advance of Desert Storm, and that's coming up very, very quickly. So that's a lot of great projects that are near completion, which is very exciting.
Yeah, thank you for that. We also are working on our Fire Station 7. That is a great project for us to be able to move forward with. The fire chief went through and did a fire study. And as part of the fire study, he took a look at all of the different fire stations based on call volume and activity to make sure that the fire stations were located in the right locations within our community. It was a pretty bold step because if we found out that they weren't located in the right spot, what were we going to do? But we found out that they were, and what we were planning on doing with Sloop and McCulloch, so this is the upper portion of our community, we've already had the land set aside and some designs some back of the napkin designs for a fire station. We're now going to be able to move forward with that project, and that should be coming forward soon. Jess, if you want to share a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so we've started the selection process to get everybody on board. We should have a contract in front of the council in the next, I'd say, 45 to 60 days to bring the architect on board. So we put out a solicitation. We received 5 or 6 proposals back from various architects that throughout the country, really. And we've gone through a selection process and narrowed it down to 1. So we've started talking to the initial steps of talking to that firm to negotiate a contract to bring forth to council. And then from there, things will happen very, very quickly. And as we'll get to about 20 to 25% of design. And then at that point, we'll be bringing on a general contractor and the construction team onto the team. So then we have the architect working very, very closely with the general contractor, which is super important because then there's things that an architect might draw and the construction team says, well, that's going to be very costly or that's impractical or would the money be better used in other areas. So we want them both in the room. We want conversations with the architect, the general contractor, obviously with the city team and our and our good folks. And so that's all going to start taking place. Just in those interviews, some of the questions I was asking was just trying to get some understanding of timing. And it was pretty universal, no matter what team we were talking to, about a 10-month design and about a 12-month construction. So we are looking at some time between now and the ribbon cutting when it is open and available for use and service to the community. But we're underway and doing the best we can to tee that up and get that project rolling.
Excellent. So the fire station, the chief actually released his annual report. So if you go to our city website, you can actually read the annual report. You can see call volume, where the calls are going, and all those types of things. And this location of this fire station is exactly placed in the right spot to be able to offset some of the demand we're getting at Station 1 and Station 3 that currently serve those areas. So it's very exciting to be able to move forward with that, make sure that we have great coverage for public safety across our entire community. And the process that Jess just mentioned about the actual design and build of the facility is exactly what we used for the courthouse and the building that we're in today. And that process allowed us to save time and also money. And so at the end of the day, the council approved a contract, and that contract was not to exceed. So we knew what the number was going to be to build this facility. Should the number have come over, the contractor would have ate that cost. That would not have been passed back on to the city. But should we have come under, then we would have had the money returned back to the city. So it's in their best interest, obviously, to provide a quote, an estimate that is going to be pretty much spot on, so that they're not having to make a big transaction back to us or have to take a big loss on the project. So we were able to do in a very clear and transparent way for all the citizens and the taxpayers on this facility. And so we're going to replicate that going forward because it's a very efficient way to do it, but it gives the transparency and it gives the certainty to citizens and, of course, to the project managers here at the city that are managing a project of that scope. So pretty excited to be able to move that forward. It's a project that's been on the planning for many, many years, but it will now be actually happening in 24 months or so.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Very good. Another project that we've been talking about a lot is the Downtown Catalyst project. Just as a reminder of what the Downtown Catalyst project is it's located in our downtown area. It's on the corner of McCulloch Boulevard and Querio Boulevard. And what it is it's a big grass lot right now. And it's called lots of different names depending on who you are and what you're doing down in that area. But there's a lot of confusion about why we are even talking about Downtown Catalyst project or how that even came to be. So I'm just going to remind you of some of the excitement of how this all became. So back in about 2015, so it seems like a long time ago, but 9 years ago, for those of you that didn't live here at that time, it's hard to understand kind of the feeling that we were all going through as a community at that time. But we went through a process called the America's Best Community Program. It was put on by Frontier Communications. And at the time, the outgoing CEO, Maggie, wanted to have a legacy project for rural communities across America. She wanted to create economic development in a way that was going to be meaningful and purposeful for a community. And so as she was setting to retire, she set aside money from Frontier and other partners that were part of the program, a total of $15 million to be able to implement these programs throughout areas that they serviced, they being Frontier, serviced throughout America. At that time, Frontier was primarily in rural markets in the United States. So there's 350 applicants that initially applied for the America's Best Community process. We, as Lake Havasu City, submitted an application. We put together a team. We made it through the semifinals, the quarterfinals, the top 10, and then we made it to the top 3. At the end of the day, we were able to create and win a grand prize of $2 million to put together our economic development plan. So that was the competition side of that. So think Shark Tank, think all of that. That's kind of what that was. But we had to have something to pitch. So we were putting together an economic revitalization plan in the background, which was the real work that we were doing. And so what we did is we all gathered together at ASU at the gym on one Saturday morning. We spent about 8 hours doing it, and there was over 200 members of our community that represented citizens at large, every civic organization, fraternal organization, nonprofit, health and human services, economic development, city team members, education. Every walk of life that was in Lake Havasu City came together into this facility, or into the gym. We were separated into tables of 10. And we had Arizona Town Hall, and I will say if you ever get an opportunity to attend any event put on by Arizona Town Hall, I highly recommend it. You come together and you have these really difficult conversations, and then they put these words together that are amazing and eloquent of what the group said, and you're able to move forward. So if you ever get a chance, do an Arizona Town Hall event when they come our area or when you head down to Phoenix. But Arizona Town Hall facilitated it, and we were able to create an economic development plan that had 5 pillars of change. So it was education and talent supply, it was economic development and job supply, it was tourism and place development, it was water and community engagement. It had 5 different leaders that led in each of those pillars, and then they created programs of work within those different areas. So some of the things that you've seen in our community that you might just take for granted that actually came out of this process was the creation of the Certified Tourism Ambassador Program. That's a citywide education program for all of our frontline hospitality and tourism workers. We were able to partner with the CTA program to have our community be one of those. All of the field improvements that you see at the high school, all of the improvements you see at all of our K-12 school sites were part of the bond initiative that were part of this program of work. The curriculum with Oro Grande Classical Academy, all part of this program of work. Some of the economic development pieces, such as Nomadic and the co-work location in the downtown area, were part of this program of work. And so it was a document that you can still find it if you search the Havasu Vision 2020 revitalization plan. But it's a really large document that really shapes the focus for going forward from an economic development standpoint. Now let's get back to the competition. We had to do something with that money. And so as part of the money, we had to take those 5 pillars of change that we were coming and identify them into projects or something that's going to change the face of your community, because that's what Maggie, the CEO of Frontier, set out to do across rural communities in America. So getting back to that, we then reconvened the whole group and anyone else, because now additional folks were engaged in the process, because at this point, there's lots of excitement building up in our community that we've won this money, that we're winning the competition, and now other folks that couldn't attend the first one wanted to participate and be a part of the second one. So again, lots of excitement across all sectors of our community. We reconvene and say, what should we do with the money? And Arizona Town Hall helps us facilitate this again. And 3 projects rose to the top. The first one being Nomadic, which is now built in the downtown area. It's a co-work location center. And the idea was, where do you put entrepreneurs that have ideas that want to maybe scale to the next level or build something from that? Where do we house them to make them successful? That was the initial idea. Nomadic has become so much more than that for many, many businesses in our community. But that was what started the build of Nomadic. The second project was the Downtown Catalyst Project, which is creating a vision for a downtown area where we'd have a downtown gathering place. And so this would be an area, if you can imagine, ASU is very new in our community at this time. It was only about 4 years old. And so where do we have these students to have student life and be able to grow roots within our community? And the idea is to have a promenade that goes off of University Way, connects with our downtown area, and then students have access to restaurants and attractions and a place to gather together, as well as citizens alike to go down in this area. And so we've had lots of different iterations of the Downtown Catalyst, from public-private partnerships to a park-like setting, to a gathering place that would be like an event space. And like everything in Lake Havasu, we want to be everything to everyone. And so what we've come up with is that the Downtown Catalyst Project couldn't be just a gathering spot, because so many people use it for event space, and so many people use it to play fetch with their dogs, and a lot of people use it to land their hot air balloons, and a lot of people use it just to traverse the downtown area. So because of that, and kind of the nature of our community, and in that pioneering spirit of why we all moved here, we have to do something that's going to make sense for everyone, for every use. And so we worked with Dig Studios, using the grant monies that we won, to put together a few different designs and pricings and bids. And we came back with bids that were overpriced and out of our budget. And so Jess and his team went to work and got additional grants to help offset some of those costs. And we went back out to bid, and surprisingly, the costs are higher again. And so we have to take a look at, how do we make this multifunctional functional space that's be everything to everyone and still achieve the goal that the citizens as a whole put together dating back to 2015, and it's something that we can all be proud of and that we'll be using. So that's what we've been challenged to do on that particular project, and we'll circle back to that, and I'll have Jess talk about where we're at on that. But I want to talk about the third project. So the third project of the money was an environmental learning center. This is the area, and the idea here was to create a facility that was everything water. So water quality, water availability, water research, water. The ecological systems of the water, everything Colorado River water. And it was going to go on the Havasu 280, which is an area right in front of the Havasu Riviera, right, the Riviera Parkway, that swath of land. The city controls through a patent with the BLM, or with it's not a patent, it's an RMPP lease.
Our lease.
Lease with the BLM in that area. And so we have modeling, we have plans, we have all of the things, but we don't have the money, and the money's pretty expensive. I think the last numbers I heard were in the $10 million range, and it was all going to be funded through grants and different partners coming together. So this would be educational partners, scientists, Bureau of Reclamation, Arizona Game and Fish. It would have to bring all of these partners that have something to do with the management of the system.
We had conversations with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and
Yes.
trying to maybe centralize their operations out of Needles, Parker area, and doing something very similar to what we were talking about. So, and then COVID struck.
Yes.
So we have to renew those conversations.
And it stopped everything on those conversations, and everyone, we're still having some of those conversations, but everyone's kind of fragmented on what that is going to be. So that project's been stalled for right now, but it's still there in the planning, but stalled for that purpose. But now we'll circle back to the downtown Calais project, because we do have some things that we're working on with that. So if you want to talk about kind of where we stand and what's in front of us right now.
Yeah, we talked about the first wave. We went out for bid, and they came in over budget. So we got two bids and one true bid, and was over budget. We took a look at the project and trying to identify specifics within the project, and then put that out for bid. We got a solid bid that came back just within the last week or so, and be able to work through that. So the base bid itself will be within budget. And then we'll have some conversations about how we can do some stuff on the city side, internal staff using our expertise to help with that project cost and outcome as well too. So working through some of those, but we are under budget on that project, or within the confines of the funds that we have identified for it. ABC dollars were identified for that. After the design, we still have $800 and some $1,000 that's left. We applied and were successful in getting $1 million grant from Arizona State Parks. So that's part of that project as well too. And then we reached out and received a grant from WIFA, a state agency that helps out with water efficiency and a lot of times with water and sewer projects. So upwards of $1 million grant that we got for that project as well too. Now those funds have to be used for water efficiency. So do we look at maybe some artificial turf or areas within that the confines of that project? Those funds would then be available for that. So doing our best through Anthony Kozlowski, Vijay, and Heidi and our grants team to bring in as much funds into this project outside of the general fund and taxpayer dollars, local taxpayer dollars, that we can to fund the project. And then so we're working on trying to do the best we can from what we can contract out, what we can do internally. But in the end, we'll have some conversations about the total project in terms of the amenities that are associated with it. So we had add alternatives, base bid and add alternatives for like the bridge, the restrooms, the turf, and some of the shade structures, just so we could have an understanding of the breakdown of these costs and how they fit within the project, our budget, and what we can do internally as a team to accomplish some of these things, maybe a little cheaper than we could through a contract. So working through all those things, very preliminary in terms of the bid coming out and the conversations that we're having with the city team. But we'll be bringing something forward to the council, to the public, and with obviously the goal of moving forward and doing something in that area. We want to support our special events in the downtown, right? We want to have a community gathering location, and really just kind of that area within the downtown that's kind of a nice area to take a breath and relax and enjoy from an individual perspective, or bring the. It's not a playground, but it's a more of a social gathering spot, and so maybe music festivals, other events that we see happening down there right now, more of that. We have Desert Storm coming up in a couple of weeks. They utilize that space for that event, and all the other events that happen in the downtown. So we're getting there. Good news is we got a bid coming in that we can work with within the confines of our budget and what we have, and I think we'll have a project. I know we'll have a project at the end of the day that the community will be proud of.
So I share a lot of the history of where we came with that, because it's disheartening that we hear that it's a waste of money or that we shouldn't move in that direction, when what we've been doing is talking to citizens throughout this entire process. And so I share some of the history because 9 years ago, like I said, not everyone lived here. But everyone moved here for a reason, and it's these types of reasons that bring Lake Havasu City together, that we come together on a project that we can all be proud of, that we move forward. And that's how it's happened since the early days of Lake Havasu City. And I know that's why lots of people move here, because I talk to people every single day that move here and tell me why they moved here. But we can't go back just because somebody moved here now and thinks that that's a waste of money. But we can add those new citizens to the fold and continue the conversation, and then make our community even stronger and brighter because of their inputs and ideas as we build out our amazing community. So when it comes to the funding of this particular project, the reason why I get disheartened on when someone says it's a waste of money is that the money is coming from the winnings of a passion-driven exercise done by citizens, $1 million grant from Arizona State Parks and Trails, and some additional general fund dollars. But we're not going to a position where we're not funding something else, or we're increasing taxes, or we're doing any of those types of things. We're doing it through careful planning and execution while we work with the community and stakeholders on all levels, as we do with all projects. So that's why I went back 9 years to share some of that history, just so you could get the excitement that was there and the passion that we're moving forward with, and why we won the money in the first place. So thank you for allowing me to share some of that history. So now we'll move on to, that's all the infrastructure stuff we're going to talk about today, unless you have questions later. But we're now talk about our C of N, or our Certificate of Necessity. This is where the fire chief, Chief Palafis, came forward and was trying to identify redundancy in our ability to transport patients, so ambulance service. What we've really done from a city administration perspective is to create redundancy in all things. So we've created redundancy in our freshwater system, created redundancy in our wastewater systems, and now we're working on creating a redundancy in our public safety and other areas. So we just want redundancy so there's options for citizens should something change or deviate or go along those lines. So the chief started working to put together the opportunity to augment the services that AMR, which is the ambulance service provider here in our area. They currently have a certificate of necessity. That's a certificate from the state of Arizona that allows them to operate in our area. And they operate a really large area. Is it like 16,000?
It's insane. I mean, they're almost going to Flagstaff in terms of.
It's like from Blythe to Flagstaff, right? Like kind of in that area.
What's that small town that's on the way to the Flagstaff? Starts on an S. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge.
Seligman.
Seligman, yeah, all the way to Seligman is Havasu to Seligman and everywhere in between. So it's a huge area, and we're obviously concerned about Havasu.
And the way that they describe it is they kind of work like a board. And so like where the incidents are occurring, they kind of move up the system, like the ambulance is up and down the river. And so there's times that some of our patients are waiting, 20 minutes for transport of some sort. And that's obviously not in the best care of our citizens or the patients in Lake Havasu City. And so what we moved together to do is to create a patient-focused system where we'd have redundancy in ambulance service. But we had to work in partnership with AMR and the Arizona Department of Health Services to do an application where we could get a certificate of necessity here in our area where we can augment AMR service. So all Lake Havasu City Fire is going to do is transport patients from an emergent situation to the hospital. We won't do any inter-facility transfers. We won't do any transfers to Las Vegas or Phoenix. But in an emergent situation, should the need arise and we're the closest ambulance to the incident, we will take that patient and get them to emergency medical care. That is the light and easy way of saying that. There's lots of technicalities that went through that. So Jesse, you want to share with all of that part?
Yeah, no, it's very, very exciting because what we have right now, and as we kind of scratch our head and look at some of the services that have been provided for ambulance services in Havasu over the last several years, AMR does the best they can. They're a for-profit company that covers a very large area, but they have the ability to provide service in the area because the state provides that certificate to them. Nobody else can do that and charge a fee for it. And at certain times, we would know when those inter-facility transfers were taking place. So there's maybe sending 2 ambulances, 2 transports up to Vegas. That's 2 less ambulances than at that point that are in Havasu, transporting from homes to the hospital or within the community itself. And we're looking at that, and at certain times, there's 1 or 2 ambulances that are serving all of Havasu at the same time. Things happen. We need more than that. So we started having conversations with them. Thank you to the good folks at AMR. A lot of times when a city will try to enter this area, it's several years of court litigation and several millions of dollars that in that fight. River Medical or AMR typically does not give up space through their business model. And allows cities to enter this space like Havasu is. So we saved several years of litigation. We saved several $1 million as part of this effort, working closely with them, and we're on the cusp of it all coming to realization. You mentioned Chief Palafis. I can't tell you how passionate, how driven that he has been on this project. Weekly phone calls to the Department of Health Services to say, hey, what about our application? What about now? What's going on? And just really driven. And then special thanks to his team as well, too. Division Chief Jason Stello, Tim Maple, all working very, very hard on this project as well. So right now, the existing situation that if there are no ambulances in town, and when we get a call, and if that call is going to be in excess of like 15-minute response time, then the city can step in and do a transport for free without being compensated for that. That's not acceptable, right? We're going to sit back and wait for that time frame when we have somebody that we have the equipment and the personnel to make that transport. But that's how the state laws work until we get that certificate. So we're working on that. We had within the last 2 weeks, Chief and his team, as well as our city attorney, Kelly Gary, went down to Phoenix and as part of this process, application process, met with the hearing officer, went through a hearing process, and good things happened at that day. Chief even texted me later that day a picture with everybody that was involved within the hearing itself, which is a great sign that everyone's working together and along the same path and towards the same goal. So then the next process here too is that hearing officer will provide a recommendation, and then ultimately it's the director of health services at the state level that will either approve or deny the city's application for the certificate of necessity. All things point in the right direction, to the point where on the next council agenda we're going to have the purchase of 2 ambulances, vehicles, transports that'll be on the agenda for the council to consider. So in the end, what does this mean? It means that there's going to be more transport, more ambulance service within the city. As residents, as those in need, and you call 911 and you need a transport, you don't care who it is, but we want to have quick response times, and we want to get you to the medical services that you need as quickly as possible. And that's the goal of what's occurring throughout this process now. We anticipate. Usually I kind of put a buffer on things, but maybe like the early or the June timeframe is when we're hoping to hear back from the director, and in terms of a decision, if we're going to receive that certificate for this use. So I think there's so many days per statute that the hearing officer has to make a decision, and there's so many days that the director has to make a decision, and so we're on the cusp of all that. So that's just that process, and then we're also going through the process in terms of what we have for on the billing side. So the city is taking the approach where we're not gonna do anything other than just match the existing fees that are out there for AMR. those funds will go back into the transport service and within the fire department's budget itself. And also working on making sure that we have the technology in place. So dispatch is able to see from a separate entity, as well as our ambulances on a screen to say, okay, which transport is closest to the call, and are we going to send AMR, or are we going to send Lake Havasu City Fire as that transport? And we're not taking turns. It's all about, like you said, it's going to be patient-centric, patient-focused. So whoever is the closest, dispatch will send a signal to that unit, and then we'll make that response. So new for us, but we're able to increase the level of service when it comes to medical and transport services within the community at no additional cost to the taxpayers, and actually at a true benefit to the fire department services and the budget that they utilize for those services. Again, thank you, Chief Palafis. If you see him, thank him, because he is dedicated and driven and hardworking at this.
Yeah, thank you. So when you hear all these details about medical transports, that you're like, why do I need to know all of these things? But you do need to know when you call 911, you're going to want to know. But of course, we don't all call 911 every day. So again, this is a really innovative process that we're going through. The chief will tell the story that when he first started talking about it, everyone was kind of like arms crossed and they had no interest in this conversation. And the first meeting with the Arizona Department of Health Services, they actually were so surprised that we were even coming in together with AMR and the city to be able to even propose this idea.
This is the first time that this approach has taken place in Arizona.
Yes.
With AMR and a city linked arms and going and asking for a shared certificate. And we're hoping to see it duplicated in other cities, because it's the right approach.
Yeah, and Arizona Department of Health Services, they want to see it replicated as well. So, but at first you had to get over that hurdle. Like everyone's like, what are they doing? What's the intention here? And again, our intention is just to give citizens options and be patient focused for our citizens to be able to have access to medical care in emergent situations. So we'll continue to work on redundancy across all systems that we do in Lake Havasu to ensure that our citizens are armed with the things that they need to make choices for their family. So if whenever it comes to whatever it is, we're going to be working redundancy to make sure we have that. One, we kind of have to, just based on geography, that we're kind of an island of ourselves. We don't have anyone else to rely on,
right.
But also because our citizens deserve it. So we'll talk a little bit about parking in common, which is very unique in Lake Havasu, but we thought to bring it forward to talk a little bit about it, just so that citizens understand. So it's more educational, actually, than anything about what parking in common is. One, it's unique to Lake Havasu City, and it dates all the way back to Mr. McCulloch. And so what the idea is when he was first planning the community with C.V. Wood, they created different zones or commercial areas within our community and across our entire community, not just in the downtown and not just in neighborhoods, but there was neighborhood nodes, you might hear we refer to. And there's commercial districts on Maricopa and over on Kiowa, and there's just a variety of them. So he invented parking in common, which basically says that every business or every property owner in a certain district, whatever the district was, will share their parking. But they will get credit for the shared parking to the amount of parking spaces that they need for their use. So, for example, if you owned a piece of property and you wanted to put a restaurant there, there's a requirement in the city code that says for a restaurant of this many square feet, you need this many parking stalls. And then if you wanted to, right next door, put in a retail store, there's language in our code that says for a retail store of this size, you need this many parking stalls. So, but if we combine forces together, we can share that parking or have parking in common, and then we can reduce the requirement of the parking. So some of the initial buildings that you see, like on McCulloch, for example, they face McCulloch with really no right-of-way. There's just room for a sidewalk. There's no front-facing parking. Most of the parking's in the back of those buildings. So there's what we refer to as like the buildable footprint, and then there would be a parking lot beyond it. So it worked great as the properties were developing next door to each other. But you'll go down in the McCulloch area, for example, and you'll have properties that have been developed and then properties that have not been developed. So you go from a parking lot that's paved to maybe a dirt lot. And as the topography changes a little bit, it's actually going uphill too. And then you might go back to a paved lot. But this paved lot might have spaces going diagonal this way. and then the next one have diagonal going the other way, which makes no sense, no continuity, right? So those are the downfalls to parking in common, but the benefits are that you can create an entertainment area. Now, we refer to parking in common, we're talking about downtown right now, but there's also areas over on Maricopa, Sweetwater. There's areas over on the north end of our community. In fact, over on Maricopa, there was an item in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission recently to abandon the parking in common plan for a particular property because it made sense for what they were asking for. There's a process to do that. But parking in common is an area where there's deed declarations on some of the properties, and then there's CC&Rs on other properties. So it's not all the same for each property, which makes it very difficult and hard to understand. And when it comes to the continuity of parking lots, it makes it difficult too when you have the angled parking one way and then angled parking the other way, and you can't get out of this parking lot. And you're like, what am I to do? But we're trying to bring some clarity to what that is, and to bring property owners together to have continuity within the flow of their own traffic plan. So we're doing that in an area that we don't own the land. And we're dealing with a parking in common plan that was input into Lake Havasu City before we even became a city, because these date back to Mr. McCulloch. And there's deed restrictions on some of these things that are individual and unique to either that tract or that particular piece of property. And so when you are driving some of these areas, and I saw some of you shake your heads and smile when I was talking about kind of the disconfiguration of these parking lots, that's the reason why. And we're trying to bring some clarity and some continuity in the conversation, because not only do citizens not know what parking in common are, because it's literally unique to Lake Havasu City, but also some property owners don't. And oftentimes in these areas, we have property owners that lease out to business owners. We have two potential stakeholders on that parcel of property that don't understand it necessarily either. So it just complicates it even more. So when Jess and I were talking, I was like, well, maybe we should talk about parking in common and just give a real high level overview of what it is, and that we know it's there, and we're trying to solve it through bringing folks together. And we're all ears if anyone has any ideas or suggestions as well. And I don't know if I missed any of kind of the high level stuff on that.
No, I think you nailed it in terms of the history and what is parking in common, and then the onset. Why does it exist in the first place? So if you're building a brand new building within the downtown, you don't have the space to build the building and the parking that's needed. Then you enter into an agreement with the city that says, okay, that parking lot will be for everybody, not just your customers. In return, the city won't require you to build the parking spaces that are needed for your property. And downtowns are special, although parking in common exists throughout the community itself. But there's a benefit. The person that's building initially that building is like, great, I'd love this parking in common, no problem. I can build my building. I don't need to buy the lot next to me to build an additional parking lot. But then we have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sales later, and then today we have new owners, new business owners, new property owners within the downtown, and they're like, oh, this parking in common is a bunch of crap, because they're not seeing the benefit of what occurred initially several purchases before. So they come in, buy a property, and then the city tells you that you can't put up signs that say, parking for this business only. You can't put up chains or barricades within on your own property saying that you can't park here. No, it's parking in common. That means any of us can park in one business within the downtown, and then walk down the block and shop or eat or enjoy the services at another business. So. That's what kind of parking in common is, and we're having conversations with new business owners, new property owners, and what that means. Now, the alternative, right, is that everybody controlled their own parking lot, which means they could put up signs and chains and restrict if they want to. Some would not, if parking in common didn't exist. But then you'd have maybe a parking lot with 20 stalls and 3 people parking there, and the owner saying, get out of my parking lot, kind of thing. And then it'd be more restrictive in terms of the community's ability to park in the downtown to fill up those spaces. Right now, we don't even think about it. We just go in the downtown, we park, and then we visit a couple businesses within the area. So But that's because of parking in common, and maybe we didn't know that as we were shopping and visiting our downtown area. So it took us a while just to explain what parking in common is. Can you imagine as a business owner, property owner, that is like what's happening right now? What is this parking in common? But there's obviously some true benefits to it.
That's how a lot of that area was developed in many of the parking in common neighborhoods that we have, within our community. So we'll keep talking about it. And again, anyone has ideas, we're all ears. We'd love to make it efficient and better for the users, the property owners, and the general public that is going to be a part of that. We want to give a pitch to our GIS mapping. So I've been playing around there a lot myself. So I was like, let's share it with everybody. It's of course always been available to everyone, but you just have to spend a couple of minutes on it. But if you ever want to know about land use and land use planning that occurs in Lake Havasu, we hear this a lot now as the community is growing and as the infilling is happening. So the lots that used to be vacant next to our homes are now developed with a home, or a commercial lot now has a building on it. As all of those things are occurring, if people are like, oh, we didn't plan right, or we didn't have this, or I don't know why that was done, or any of those types of things, you can go to our website, lhcaz.gov. You'll get to the homepage.
lhcaz.gov/maps.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to the search bar at the top, I get maps, and then it takes me there. So
you can do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing that from now on. I'm gonna save that. So once you get to the map page, so you can either search in the search bar in the upper right, or go just /maps. There's a variety of them, but go to the interactive map. You just click on it. You can put in an address. You can look at the whole community. You can zoom in, zoom out. But there's probably 20 different layers you can put on there. And you can look at aerial photos from, I think, 2017, 19, 22, or maybe 21. So you can actually see the growth transcend over those years. You can put the zoning layer on there. You can put the property lines. You can put where our public infrastructure is at, like water lines, sewer lines. Like I said, there's 20 different layers you can click on, and you can get right into the details of the land and the land planning. So it's actually a pretty interactive and amazing tool. If you're investing in any real estate in Lake Havasu, you certainly should do your homework and go to this area. But it's really a great tool for folks to look at and be able to really see and understand why something might be happening in a particular neighborhood, or why the zoning was allowed for that type of a process. But it's really easy to use. I was actually a little bit, I was like, I don't have time to learn something new. I'm in a hurry, and I got on there. I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? It's so much easier. Jess and the team would all be on the GIS maps. I'd be on Google Maps, and they have a whole lot more information. And Google Maps is good, but it doesn't have all those layers of information that you can get on GIS.
Water pressure zones, tax parcels, ownership, short-term rentals within the community, right-of-ways, easements, all those types of things. So that's just a couple examples of the different layers, as you indicated, that on the GIS maps. You can turn those on or off and take a look at that. Kevin Neff is our GIS coordinator. Does a wonderful job. A lot of effort goes into taking the surveying tool to go out there and map out our valves, our fire hydrants, and our trees and other things that then get within the GIS, and then we can, with a quick click of the button, can pull up that and look at that from an aerial perspective, and then you can zoom in, you can click on that and get more information on whatever item you're looking at. And for those that are here today, physically here in the room, right outside the double doors, there's two maps, and Kevin Neff and our GIS coordinator put those together as an aerial map from, I think, 1968 or 1969, and then a current map, which is fun. It's almost like a going back and forth in terms of looking at the difference. But look, our community changed in the many decades within Havasu, and we want to put those maps in this area as well too. So thank you, Kevin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so check it out if you want to see it, but it is a really interactive and good way to see some land planning that we have in our community. So we're getting close to the section of the meeting where we're going to take your questions. But before we do that, we have a couple more things. We have a budget work session. So the first hearing since our planning session in February will be our CIP, or our capital improvement plan budget work session. It's next Thursday on the 11th of April. And then we'll have a subsequent budget hearing on May 9th, which will be our operating budget and all those types of things. So it's at 9 a.m. in the council chambers here in this room. We invite everyone to participate either online or come join us in the room. This room's a whole lot more comfortable than our old room. So the seats are better. So if you haven't been here yet, come join us and be a part of that. And then on Earth Day, April 22nd, we have a special dedication that we'll be doing. Many of you may know that we did a citywide cleanup across all areas of our community in March in commemoration of Earth Day. And everyone's like, well, Earth Day's in April. Why are we doing that? So we do that because we bring together a lot of different groups. We do a water cleanup, we do a land cleanup, and we do a desert cleanup all at the same time. And the temperatures are good, and there's not as many events that are competing with us in April. And so that's why we do it in March. But for actual Earth Day, which is on a Monday this year, we had the Supervisor Excellence Academy, which was, we talked about that last month when we were all together, was an innovative program under Jess's leadership and Dr. Kim Milton, our HR director, putting together an opportunity for Lake Havasu City employees that are on a supervisory track to get additional training and education so that they are best prepared for the delivery of service to our citizens. An amazing program. We had really great results. It was a partnership with Mojave Community College and Arizona at Work, and has done some amazing things, and the citizens are going to benefit from this investment for many decades to come because of the pipeline of talent we have in our fostering. But they had to do a project, and that's what we'll be doing on Earth Day, April 22nd, 10 a.m., actually in front of City Hall complex of the Civic Center Drive. There is the Havasu Water Smart Demonstration Garden, and they created a Water Smart garden so that citizens can come to the area, go through the garden, and as they're picking their landscaping and plants for their home, they can say, yeah, I would like that. I actually can see it grow, and you can see what the flowers look like. You can see as the plant matures that might be something that's going to complement your landscaping. You can then choose that, and it's a water smart plant. It's meant for our area. It uses little amounts of water, but it gives citizens the opportunity to actually see, yeah, that's good. I like that, or nope, I want a little bit more green, or I want a little bit more desert landscape. But you can go to this area. It's in place right now, so feel free to take a look at it. But it's a garden that when citizens come in and have questions, that our team can say, hey, go walk the garden, and you can pick what you think is best for your front yard.
For drought tolerant or water efficient plants and landscaping. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, come join. And also, I think it has demonstration on irrigation too.
Yeah, that's forthcoming, right?
Okay.
Yep, that'll be coming.
So yeah, irrigation systems and all that, so that it's kind of like fully functioning for people to have real life demonstration of what you might want. So join us Earth Day, April 22nd, 10 a.m. For the ribbon cutting and dedication. We'd love to have you there. And then one last thing, we have an election coming up. And so when elections happen, we sometimes they forget about us here at the local level, but don't forget, local level is most important. We're the ones that do the roads you drive on, the water you drink, the water you don't want anymore when you flush the toilet, public safety. We do all of the things. And so it's really important. One milestone since we met last month was that signatures were due for qualified candidates for the ballot. And so we do have 7 candidates running for 3 seats. We have Vice Mayor Cameron Moses running for re-election. We have Councilmember Nancy Campbell running for re-election. And then we have citizens that have qualified for the ballot: Morgan Braden, David Diaz here this morning with us, Joan DeZuro also here with us this morning, Rick Riegler, and Terry K. Parcells. So those are the 7 candidates for 3 seats. The primary election is on June 30th.
July 30th.
July 30th,
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, July 30th. And at the local level, for the last several election cycles, all of the positions for city council have been filled in the primary. So it's really important that you get out and get involved in the primary election process so that you have a voice in your local candidates, as well as the general election candidates in November when they come. So,
and what everyone's looking forward to, right, is that political signs. That's May 20th will be the first time that political signs can be placed out in the community. So that's coming.
Yes. Everyone's favorite, but they work, and so they exist. Mm-hmm. So, but we wish all of the candidates well. It's fantastic to have that much interest in our community and have people stand up to want to be able to serve this great community. We're grateful for all of that, and we look forward to knowing more about the candidates. And again, please be involved in the process on July 30th. I do have some sad news that I would like to share with you. Councilmember Dean Barlow, who served our community for 2 terms, and from 2008 until 2016, passed away. And he was a strong supporter of Lake Havasu City. He was the embodiment of what we are as a community that just gives back, it rolls up your sleeves, and just does it. He was a huge supporter of the Western Arizona Humane Society and all things animal welfare. He also was a huge supporter of Keep Havasu Beautiful. And a lot of the landscape terrain that you see around the island, he actually dug the holes and planted the plants alongside Craig Geary from our staff and other volunteers from Keep Havasu Beautiful. You'll see some dedication plaques for him over in that area because of the amount of money he donated and labor that he did. But he was just a really great guy with a wicked sense of humor that really just cared for our community. And our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and we're just so grateful that they shared a small piece of his life with us for those years. But we will honor him for his service to Lake Havasu City, and again, our thoughts go out to his family. We will now transition over to questions, but before I do that, I'll introduce a few folks that are joining me. We have Councilmember David Lane is here. He's going to grab the microphone. Thank you, Councilmember Lane. And that's who's with us from the City Council. I will mention, as Councilmember Lane goes to the first question asker, we also have Donna McCoy here. Donna is actually one of the co-leaders of the community engagement from our revitalization plan that I talked about during the process. So we had co-chairs, and Donna did that. So thank you, Donna. Yes. All right.
Yes, Mayor, I have some questions about infrastructure. First of all, Fire Station 7, will that also be the location of a future police substation? And then the second one is, I wasn't clear what the total cost is on the Downtown Catalyst project as it currently stands. It's either 1.8 or 2.8 million from what you said. Would you clarify that, please? And then on the certificate of need, I think you answered this, what will the schedule be on that, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. So the question about the Fire Station 7 on Sloop and McCulloch, that is set aside. It's, I believe, a 4-acre site.
If that, and it's got slopes and hills, and we're it's going to be a challenge just to get a fire station on that site. Fire stations, when they're designed, a lot of them you'll see are kind of like a pass-through, so that the engines and trucks never back up. We're looking at probably a design here that's going to have, we're backing into the bays at that location. So there's barely enough room for what we need as a fire station at that location. But it'll serve the community well. But yeah, there's not a lot of room there.
Yeah, so there won't be a police substation in that area. And then the certificate of necessity, the timing is now. So hopefully we're already at the first benchmark that we are with the time clock going for the first decision, then has to go to the next decision maker, which is the director. So we're hopeful by midsummer that we'll have an answer on the direction there. Yep. And then the next question.
The dollars of the Downtown Catalyst project. Oh, yes, I mean, you said the cost, James, but I think you probably meant how much funds are available for the project. So we have total funds allocated, grants, competition dollars, general fund dollars that we've identified for that project as about $2.8 million. That does not account for the additional $1 million that we have, or $800,000 that we have upwards of from WIFA for the water efficiency component if we decide to move in that direction. A lot of moving parts here, right? So in terms of what that looks like. But 2.8 plus the WIFA grant is what we have in the budget for the project.
About 3.4?
Well, so it depends on, if we have $800,000 that's going to use for through the WIFA grant for water efficiency, we can't use that on shade structures, right? It's got to be on certain components. So if the artificial turf costs, for example, throwing a number out there, costs $600,000, then we can't use the 800. We can't use 800 of that. We can only use 600 of that. So a lot of nuance, a lot of detail, a lot of yeah, a lot of detail associated with it.
Yeah, so when it comes to downtown Calais, there's lots of moving parts, as just alluded to. So there will be lots of discussion with the community and the council on what direction and what alternatives or adults, as Jess had mentioned, might want to be considered. But I would just like to plant this seed. Rotary Park, as we know it today, has not always been that. It grew. And so we'll get the foundation of this, and then there might be additional components that will be added to this downtown gathering spot that makes sense for new users. And again, as I talked about earlier, as new folks move to our community, they're going to have ideas and visions that might need to be incorporated into this. So we'll start with a base that will allow it to be all things to all people, and then eventually we might say, but we need this, and we need to add this, and then the park or downtown gathering area will grow and evolve into what it is. So I'd just like to place that out there too.
100%. Most importantly, I think what we need to accomplish, if you're off McCulloch and you're trying to enter that space, it's a little bit of a uphill. So there's some topography issues as you're coming off the sidewalk to get to that location. So the first thing that needs to be done is we need to grade the area. We want to make it flat, just so it's easy to get back and forth from Curio, from McCulloch, and be from a pedestrian to be able to go through that area. So we want to flatten that out. And then we want to make sure that we have the right infrastructure in place in terms of electrical. If we want to host special events at that location, we need to run electrical. And we have to find a way to make sure that there's posts or outlets, sources of power for the different vendors that come in there, right? So that we start from there. And then what I described seems pretty simple. That's a lot of money from that perspective alone. So we'll get there. We're going to do a space that works out really great, starting from those two and moving on to what we want to do to enhance it, either through this project or next year or 5 years or whatever that looks like, just like Rotary Park, just like our other amenities that we have, throughout the community.
Just a clarification on the medical transport and certificate of necessity.
Yes.
Did I hear correctly? There would be no additional cost to the city? Because we're buying ambulances, we're going to have a staff to take care of the ambulances.
The revenues that will be generated will have the exact same fees that AMR has right now for transport. So it's a fee-driven service. Those fees that are collected as part of this effort will be used for the ambulances, for the personnel, and all things related to transport.
The chief was very forward-thinking in this process and brought forward a SAFER grant. And so when it comes to personnel, we already have a grant-funded ability for the staffing component of it. So it's a training program that allows us to also offset some of our upcoming retirements, but it's a multi-pronged approach for that grant with personnel. So all of those things are covered as well.
Thanks for the question and ability to explain that.
This is great because Allo hasn't turned on 4 yet, our city station, so we get to sit here in person. I have several questions. One of them is the building that was built behind the jewelry store on McCulloch. Is that part of the project?
Yeah, so that's Nomadic, and that's that's one of the ABC or the America's Best Community competition projects. Yes.
Well, that's a great one. I've been in there, and it's just wonderful, and it's getting filled up. The other question I have is with AMR. Is that different? I don't know what those initials mean. Is that different than River, whatever we have
Medical.
now?
Yeah, so River Medical was actually started by a local family. And so that's why a lot of us that live here and have lived here a long time call it River Medical. They then, as a retirement process, they sold it to American Medical Response, AMR. And that's a big national firm, multinational, I believe, firm that purchased River Medical. And so sometimes you see ambulances that say AMR, and some you still see that say River Medical. So, but one and the same, but AMR is the parent company. Yes.
Lots of letters.
Good morning. We live near the Pima Wash walkway, the paved walkway, and we frequently walk on it. And so I did a little mapping, and I wanted to bring to your attention that there are 6 cross streets, and the 2 major ones at the beginning is Lake Havasu Boulevard, and the other end is Acoma. There's no signage for where are you? There's no, like, this is Acoma or this is Lake Havasu Boulevard. There's only one street. There's 6 intersections. There's 6 cross streets, and only Swanson has a sign that says Swanson, and then there's another little street, a little alleyway that has a sign. So, and we come across people that say, well, what cross street is this? Like, where are we? And I can't imagine even McCullough doesn't have a sign. Like, here you are, McCullough. And so
You're talking about the signage for the pedestrians using the path.
signage for pedestrians.
Nice, great.
And on several of the cross streets, and then this is except Acoma and Lake Havasu Boulevard, there's little pedestrian signs. There's a small post that says stop, and then one that says no motor vehicles. So if you could create a small sign, a street sign, you could mount it on those little signs. So most of the posts are there, but there's no street signs. So I wanted to hand you my my notes and my map.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have these engagements. You know, Havasu folks were like, "Oh, how far is that?" We're like, "Oh, it's 7 minutes." Or I don't even know the names of the roads. I'm like, I don't know, turn left here, turn right there. So sometimes we forget that, and great reminder. We'll take a look at that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
Morning, Mayor. Could you give us any update on the new bridge being constructed here?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that question. So we have a second bridge that will be coming to Lake Havasu City for many, many years, all the way since the 70s. Actually, we've been talking about a second bridge to get to the island and access for that. We've done a lot of planning over the years. We've secured the right-of-way on the island side, so we have that. We have a memorandum of understanding with Arizona State Parks on the lands or the mainland side, and we also have the funding now. Thank you to Representative Biasucci. This really has been a passion project for him, and so he got the assistance of Senator Borelli, Representative Gillette, and they came together and they really charged the legislature to be able to get us $35.5 million to build a bridge and the connecting roadways to get to the second bridge. And so that was this year. Last year, they got $200,000 to do a feasibility study. And as a portion or as a requirement of the money, we had to do a feasibility study from the Senate bill that passed with the $200,000. And so it's kind of awkward how this is happening right now, but we're doing the planning and the study at the same exact time that we're doing the stakeholder meetings to build a second bridge. So kind of weird, but it's the way the money fell, and our legislative leadership found a pathway to get additional monies to do this. And so that's why it's occurring the way that it's occurring. But we've had stakeholder meetings already. We had a big kickoff in January over at the Aquatic Center, the community center. We had over 100 people attend the meeting and give feedback. I think that yielded in over 300 online public comments as well that have been considered. We then had a stakeholder meeting with all of the property owners on mainland and island side that have property kind of within the general planning area of where and how this bridge and road network could be. That occurred, I believe, in March, and then we'll have some additional engagements with the community about that, with maybe some drawings and what it might look like in May, June.
So I think we're looking at, is it the first meeting in May, possibly the second meeting in May? I think it's the first meeting in May, which is the second Tuesday. We'll have the folks that are working on the feasibility study will be at the council, making a presentation, kind of sharing what they've learned through the public meetings and all of our conversations we had with state parks and state land and other agencies that are associated with the project. So that'll be nice. That'll be we can share a lot of that and get some feedback from the community, from the council from the council that night, and then from the community for the next several weeks afterwards, right? So as the community discusses some of the things that are considered there, and then very shortly we're going to be going. Shortly, being in a couple months, we'll be going out for a selection process to bring the design firm on board to start that official design and eventual construction phase of the project. So right now, a lot of conversations, a lot of conceptual understandings, some very broad and vague cost estimates that are occurring right now. But we're going to get into the nitty gritty here before too long. So I was able to meet with one of the contractors that worked on the recent Laughlin Bullhead Bridge that is about to open. I think after 10 plus years of planning, design, and construction that's finally about to open. We're going to shatter their mark and do it much quicker in Havasu but I was able to meet with that contractor and which was great to kind of see that process, how it took place in that area, and then so what are the similarities to Havasu and our current situation. But working with state lands, state parks, and other things. Again, presentation in May to the council, and we'll start that selection process to get the experts and the detail in the next couple of months.
I think the details what everyone wants. So in both of the public outreaches that we've had so far, I think citizens were looking forward to like actually seeing pictures of where the bridge is going to be and what it's going to look like. Of course, that's what we all want, but we don't know it till we get the feedback and we understand the nuances of where state parks is going to allow us to traverse over their land and those types of things. So all of that is forward coming. So we probably won't be talking about it here unless there's questions until our June coffee, just because we won't know information until our May council meeting. But as we know information, we'll absolutely share it.
As you said, the order of these things is a little bit different than we normally address a project. So we want to be careful too, because we don't want to create expectations or provide any confusion within the public as part of these conversations. So we can talk about, hey, it should be a 3-lane bridge, a 4-lane bridge. What should it look like, some of the aesthetics associated with it. But we don't know what a 3-lane bridge with the road network, what does that cost? What's a 4-lane bridge cost? And so forth. So a lot of understanding and learning. But at the end of the day, we need to put a dollar value on that option and then be able to present it to council and the public in a manner that we're comfortable with the public expecting that to move forward. We don't want to come with hey, we need a 5-lane bridge, we need this, we need that, and then we get the cost estimates and it's double the budget. So we're very cognizant of that, right? As we want to make sure that whatever we present and discuss to the public is something the public can expect to occur.
Good morning. First of all, thank you very much for putting this community forum on YouTube. This is a great forum to actually be informed without having to sit through a city council meeting
Those are
to
terrible.
learn what's going on in our community. My question is that I live at the Nautical Estates townhouse, and recently on the island, the property next to us, the golf course, has sold to the Falcon Group. And my question is, what is the status with what's going to be developed on that property? We've had property around us developed, storage unit, which blocked about half of our views, and so we're very concerned on what's planned in the future on this property.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so the Island Golf Course, which was there for many, many years, part of the Nautical, it was on Arizona State Trust land. And Arizona State Trust lands were given to the state or the citizens of the state at statehood. So when we became a state in 1912, all of these lands were given to the state trust land. Their sole purpose is the best value for the trust. And they have 12 beneficiaries, but the largest beneficiary is the K-12 education system. And when we say best value, not what you and I would think, like, hey, this is a great corner and they should probably have a gas station here because we need a gas station. It's how much money is it going to create for the trust?
Through an auction process.
So, yeah, through an auction. So any parcel of state land, which Lake Havasu City is surrounded by state lands, can be petitioned by anybody to purchase. They petition the state. They have to obviously meet benchmarks and put money down and all of these things. Then there's a public notification process. That notification process is 12 weeks. They then go literally to the Mojave County court steps in Kingman, and they go to an auction. They say, I'll bid this much, and I'll bid this much. And at the end of that transaction, somebody buys it. That's what occurred here. And so it's certainly concerning for property owners in that area. So far, Falcon has not come forward with any plans whatsoever. I can say I'll make a political comment because I'm elected. Storage units will not be happening there. Either will mobile homes be happening there if I have anything to do with it. I'm only one vote of 7, but that's not the vision of that area. So it's going to have to, no matter what happens on that property, it has to go through a rezone. So it's going to be a public process to do that. From what I know, and I'm just saying forward thinking comments that I have no information on. So I have no intel on this at all. But from what I know, what Falcon has done in other communities is really top notch, and they take into consideration the community that is next to it. So I think it'll be very complimentary, whatever comes forward. I don't know what that is. Again, there's no plans, no conversations, none of those things. But when they go through a rezone, I believe the neighborhood is going to be considered as part of that rezoning, and what the plan proposals are going to be. What potentially, again, I'm making very forward statements I have no intel on, no information on, but something like buffer zones or lower density in areas that are abutting other areas. I mean, there's ways to develop. There's the benefit there is they have a lot of land. It's 80 plus 92 acres or something. So there's lots of land to be able to do these. The council has already done a resolution of shoreline preservation. So what we have done is we've come out as a council and said that shoreline preservation and access is most important to us, and we're going to do all that we can to preserve that. And so we don't own the land, but we certainly have some influence based on the zoning process that we would ensure. And that's not just for this property, that's for all shoreline in our area. So we don't have detailed information to share with you, but I do believe that whatever happens out there is going to be complimentary and will be something that we all can be proud of.
But my question is, there's some ponds on the old golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the importance of those ponds that seem to be, there's pumps on it 7 days a week, and it's flowing into the old part of the golf course. How important are those ponds to Public Works?
Vital.
So important.
They're not being relocated, or, I mean, they need to remain.
No, they need to remain at least into the short term. If we like to flush our toilets and take showers, then we need those retention ponds that are located on the old golf course, and as well as on the ball field on the island. So what the water you see flowing in those areas is our grade A+ effluent. So and then recent this last week we had a lot of rain over this last weekend. We also have the golf course here off Tacoma that has having some issues with their equipment on receiving effluent. So then what that means is that we still have the generation of the effluent taking place, and we need to put it somewhere. And so those are retention ponds. They were designed for that purpose. The ball field on the island, we look at it we call it a ball field, but it's a retention basin that we put a ball field on. So that's what it's the purpose of those areas. There's pumps, there's water. This last week especially, I've been taking a close look and having conversations with our team in Public Works and as wastewater as well too, to do the best we can to try to mitigate noise and other impacts. But the good news is if we're forward thinking in terms of what that looks like, right? We can have some short-term solutions, whatever else too, but the council and the city has invested in Vados wells. Vados wells are wells that we drill. We have many of them right now, and we're constructing more of them. Allows us to take that grade A+ effluent and inject that into the aquifer below ground up at our north plant. The good news, our effluent, our three wastewater treatment plants, and the effluent and the flow there, they're all connected. So we're able to move effluent and sewer around through the area and work the best that we can. Which is great news. In addition to that, we applied for an application last year. I think we were told it's an 18 to 24 month process. We're reaching out to the governor, reaching out to ADEQ, talking about how vitally important conversations we had with our U.S. senators as well too, and how important a discharge permit from ADEQ would be for not just the system itself in terms of water downstream for those individuals, but our ability to discharge grade A+ effluent into the system. Discharge permit would allow us to take that effluent and discharge directly into the lower Colorado River. So, which is a clean effluent that then at that point is diluted with the river and adds water to the system for those that are downstream, which is a very good thing. Something that you can do in Nevada right now, and Bullhead has dabbled with that as well. So we want to do the same thing. That would lessen the need for us to utilize our retention basins on the island or otherwise throughout the community. But we have to do it. It's vital.
Yeah, and for us, it used to be they had beautiful fountains in there and that for many, many years,
The
and
golf
now it's
course.
overgrown. Yeah, on the golf course. Is that those ponds something that Falcon Eye has been told must remain? I'm a resident at the Nautical Estates as well, and we're about 75% surrounded by a storage unit that happened, a couple decades ago, much to our horror. And that's the remaining view that residential community of 60 owners has. So we understand that the wastewater is okay to be discharged in that. We were hoping that maybe Falcon Eye needed to take that into consideration and use those as ponds, park, beautification. These are just things that when it comes to zoning, we're very concerned about the zoning. And I've been watching the meetings online and the planning commission looking for anything, but I understand nothing's been submitted yet. But I just want everyone to know how concerned we are as a community that is about 70% surrounded by 2- and 3-story boat storages. We've lost a lot of property value when that storage went in, and we're very concerned.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that and understand. I would see that there is no requirement right now for Falcon to have that. They're going to come in with a plan of some sort, but I would envision it to be a plan development, a plan development would be something that we know exactly where everything's at and what the layout's going to be. Please engage your community to participate in those hearings. But I believe that it's in their best interest to take the community and the neighbors into consideration, as well as the city as a whole, as well as I know from just what my colleagues on council have done already on zoning issues that's just not a thing. So currently, elections change things, but currently, is what I'm speaking. Yeah.
Just a quick question in regards to the parking in common, which I like the parking in common. I talked to a lot of the businesses, they like it too. But one of the things is that who ultimately is responsible for the maintenance of the new asphalt? And because some of those things you might think is dirt, it's probably just all degraded asphalt. And I wouldn't take my side by side on some of those things back there. It's pretty bad. So who is responsible? The city or the property owners?
So that's where the property owners that, as Jess was kind of explaining earlier, that the first property owner that did it and went into parking in common loved it because they got the benefit of the less parking, and then as the second, third, fourth, fifth owner of this property doesn't see the value because they have to maintain the parking lot themselves, and so they have to put them in, they have to pave them, and they have to manage it. So they also pay insurance, and so they're like, well, why am I doing this when this customer is not even coming to my business? But they get the benefits of all of that. So it's a very tricky situation, but hopefully, again, bringing partners together and educating communities, we'll be able to make some progress in that front. So, yes.
Again, real quick, as a soccer grandma and traveling all around for those, I know years ago we were talking about updating and upgrading Sarah Park with the ball fields and the soccer fields and so forth, so that we could host tournaments in our town and get the value of the people traveling from all over to come to tournaments. And I just wondered what's happening with that.
Sure. Yeah. So we have had a lot of stakeholders in the park system come forward to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and then also to the City Council. And the City Council, in the current budget we have now, invested $500,000 to do minor park improvements. Because when the citizens were coming to us and the stakeholders and users of the parks, they were saying, "Hey, if you just move this fence line over here, then this field can be used for a softball as well as Little League and some other things." So they came through and had all of these ideas, and so we've been implementing those. I would hope that we're going to do a similar investment in our upcoming budget so we can continue to make progress. As far as tournament play for soccer specifically, chances of that happening or being a focus of our community is pretty slim, just because Fort Mojave and Bullhead City have done really a fantastic job, and they have really inexpensive room rates right across the river in Laughlin that they can't compete here, and it's just a small drive. That's not to say that we're not going to continue to invest in park amenities and park infrastructure to meet the needs of our citizens, just not with a focus of economic development, if that makes sense. We do have a question online that came up, was what is the timing of the traffic signal at McCulloch and Jamaica? But before I answer that question, I'm going to talk about why we're talking about it. So the last week, or maybe the week before, there was an announcement and a traffic control change at the intersection of Jamaica and Shemuwavy. This is an area that is blinded by a corner, and it's right next to a gas station with a popular chicken restaurant inside of it, and some fraternal organizations and a church. That we did a study on that, and it warrants a traffic control change. So now it's a three-way stop or stop in all directions. Because of that, then everyone was getting on social media saying, well, what about this road? And what about this intersection? And what about this? And totally understand it. But a lot of conversation went to Jamaica and McCulloch, which is up by Hacienda Mini Mart. There's a couple businesses up there in that commercial node. That is getting a traffic signal. As far as timing, would you happen to know?
I do not. It's an MPO project with funds that are coming forward. I don't want to say anything without and be incorrect on it. But
MPO means it takes a long time, but we got the approval, and so it is working in the right direction. And we will get some better information on what that is. But there is an intersection, or there is a traffic light going there. But just to answer the question of how do we do traffic control changes, is we take a look at citizen complaints, accidents, citations, and general public feedback, and then we do a traffic study. So in-house, we don't hire a consultant, but we have engineers that do that, and we determine based on volumes and counts and all of those factors if it warrants it, using the, I'm going to get the term wrong, but there's a national highway safety guideline that we follow, and if it meets those requirements of what those requirements are, then traffic control is implemented.
Yeah, if it accidents, vehicle, pedestrian, traffic counts, turn radiuses, things like that too, all go into consideration if it meets standard. If it warrants a change, we make that change. If it doesn't, we don't. What's really important for us is myself or the mayor or anybody else in the city, we don't just drive around and say, all right, stop sign there, traffic signal there, speed limit there. It's all got to be based on science, right? So we, what is the science when it comes to these things?
Yeah. So one last question that we also had online, and so if you all are looking and saying the mayor's not interested in being here because he keeps looking at his phone, it's really questions are coming my way. So that's what I'm looking at. But it was what is the total residential build out of Lake Havasu City? So how many people can live here? And that's a really tough question to answer because we have private land holdings that we know now. And then we have Arizona State Trust land that could be commissioned or sold if someone wanted. And then we have a water service boundary. And then we have water allocations for a certain number of people. So there's lots of factors that are here. And so we don't really have a number. I couldn't say this is the number of people. But I would say we're probably, and this is just off the top of my head, maybe 75% built out.
You said it, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, ish. Just to give like an answer so you can, it's not like we're going to double from where we're at. But again, it's a really hard and difficult question to answer. So again, thank you all for being here today. Our time is up, but before we end, we do have some fun facts that we'd like to share with you. So the airport, let's talk about the airport for a second, opened on June 1st, 1991. And is mostly used for general aviation. If you don't use the airport, you're like, what airport? You actually do use the airport. If you get an Amazon package, you get mail deliveries, you go to a doctor's office, you use our airport for sure. The airport used to be on the island where all of those homes are at now, but that was where the initial airport was. It has 52,900 aircraft operations, so it's a really busy airport. That's an average of 145 per day. 92% are general aviation, 4% are air taxi, and then 4% military, which I'm actually surprised is only 4% military, just with all the helicopters and all the sounds we hear above us. But that is the info. Development services, in 2023, we had 191 single-family homes built. We had 13,886 building inspections. That's a lot of building inspections. 4,100 plan reviews. So these are plans for additions, maybe a swimming pool, a fence, a new house, commercial, those types of things. Code enforcement had 976 new cases and 792 closed cases. The fire department dedicated a cumulative of 33,487 hours in training initiatives in 2023. They had some pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to share it with you because I want you to go to the website and check out their fire study, because these are some of the highlights from there. So go to the website, lhcaz.gov, check out the fire study, and then if you don't, I'll share them with you next month if you don't do your homework. So, all right, our time is up. We'll be here again in the same facility at the first Friday of next month, in the month of May. Enjoy First Friday in the downtown area this weekend. Lots of great events. Go to golakehavasu.com and find out what there is, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.